Okay,
I don't know
sounds
how
good.
long this is. I don't know how long this is gonna last.
Okay, till you pass
But
out, probably.
yeah, but what were you working on anyway?
I was work. I was. I mean, I was at work. I was working like three different fucking stories about bullshit. Really,
No, nothing important or anything like that.
not really.
Not
Just
really.
city council bullshit.
Oh, I was kind of disappointing because I didn't really think of anything to come up with because I assumed that would be good podcast fodder, but apparently it isn't.
I gave you like
So
5 hours too.
I know, I know. I actually forgot like three times. Like I forgot today, and then I forgot at 9, and then I forgot at 10 too.
I'm like
So I
really proud of
forgot like
myself
three
for
times.
remembering. So
Yeah. Well, you know, I don't know.
I guess you've been
I,
busy with the Hamilton covers.
yeah. Well, I finally finished it. I finished it yesterday. I did all 47 songs,
I
both drums
haven't
and piano.
I haven't looked at it yet. I fucking love Hamilton. I don't know if you know that, but
Oh,
I was like, I will claim hipster credit on that because I was up on it before anybody else. Like the day, like the first time it ran. So I know
well,
literally every song, but now I'm kind of over it. But
so you were a fan of it when it was off Broadway then?
exactly,
Oh, that's pretty impressive. Yeah. Well, wait, hold on. I want to see if I can make you louder. Yeah, whatever.
you started up.
Um, yeah, well, this is as loud as yeah, dude. I have an LG phone, and I love it, but the volume's shit. Like when I have it on loud, I can't hear. But anyway,
You should
um,
probably use your laptop or some shit.
well, I don't have a laptop right now.
Oh, really?
My laptop shit the bed after the Hamilton thing, and I went to go take it to the Geek Squad, and then I found out that my protection plan expired a month ago. So I had to buy a new laptop, but that laptop they have to order it, so I'm without a laptop right now.
Well,
Actually,
damn,
you know what? Hold on. I might. I know this is compelling podcast stuff, but I might actually
it is.
move to my tablet real quick. Hold on, because I had something to say about Hamilton. So, let's see, can I access? There we go. I want to see if I can access on my.
We're not
Okay.
playing your Hamilton songs on the podcast because I don't think
No,
the sound value can handle that.
oh, we won't do that. Don't worry. Um, okay, join video call. I'm just going to move over to yes on air. I've understood the information above. Okay.
All right, there's like a hardcore echo, so you need to delete the first one you're in.
Okay.
God damn it! All right,
I am so professional. Anyway, okay.
totally.
So, but yeah, no, I was actually, I didn't even listen to any of these. Hold on. But well, I listened, I didn't even listen to the Hamilton soundtrack until about, I think a month ago when I started working on the project. And, yeah, I'll be honest, like I knew everyone loved it, but I was just expecting it to be a bunch of mediocre R&B songs. Like I really wasn't. I was expecting it to be an overrated piece of crap, but
Yeah,
um,
it didn't seem like your speed of music.
yeah, well, I was like, musicals are weird where if if they have music that's more meant for like concerts than musicals, it's all automatically popular.
Mills,
Like
you sound like you're talking underwater. By the way, your sound's really muffled.
it's because I'm eating the ham sandwich
Okay,
and I'm also talking 3 feet from the mic.
as long as you know.
Oh yeah, okay. I mean, can you hear me any better now?
Not really.
So, see, I can hear you better on here, but now you can't hear me. So, hold on. How about now?
Okay, that's better.
All right, I'm gonna point to that thing like this. But yeah, so like the thing about musicals, if places made for musicals, they're just pop songs. The musicals become really popular. It's like Wicked, for example, is just like I don't know, like Michelle, what's her name? Michelle Branch, basically, but it's Wicked. Like
Yeah,
it's in a musical, it's super popular, and it's like the same thing for like Frozen. I mean, Let It Go would just be a mediocre pop song if it wasn't in a movie. So I was expecting Hamilton to just be some like hip hop R&B songs, but I actually think it's really good. What's your favorite one?
I cry like a bitch every time I hear Dear Theodosia.
Oh, is that well? Shoot, I don't want to sing, but yeah, that's the one where
That's the one with the piano. It's just that,
that one.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like
I like Wait For It too. All the Aaron Burr songs I really like.
yeah, Wait For It's my favorite. Oh yeah, I mean all the. I'm still trying to remember who's singing what. I think I figured out which one's there. So Aaron Burr sang the Wait For It one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's my favorite one. Yeah, I do like that. And then of course I also like the one where I think it was Stay Alive reprise when Alexander Hamilton's son gets shot or he shoots himself or something.
Yeah, I like that. I like all the. I don't like all when it gets dark at the end. I never like that in musicals. I like all the happy songs.
Oh, you like yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's just pretty much quote for quote from a
From his left, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I
mean, it got too fucking real.
Yeah, well, right. They should have just ended with It should have been like Titanic, the animated musical, where it ended with they all lived happily ever after.
Exactly. I would have been fine with that.
Yes, and they also have a rapping dog in it as well. But yeah, I know. That's a shitty story. I mean, Hamilton gets shot and he dies, and he also was the piece of shit who cheated on his wife.
Yeah, I actually read that biography that the play was based off of like a year, like at the same time that the playwright was probably reading it. So I was like super knowledgeable about it. It was weird.
Yeah, I mean, did you know anything about him? Because Hamilton is a guy who wasn't really. I mean, he's famous, but he didn't have a whole bunch of stuff attributed to him in the way like Washington and Jefferson. Like,
yeah, well, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, because I mean, he's the only one who like really like talked the talk about like freedom and with all the other, because like he was the only abolitionist founding father in the entire fucking early America, basically, which I thought was really impressive.
Yeah.
And he really, I mean, Jefferson basically completely overshadowed him. And when like after that their beef happened, like Hamilton basically lost because once he went down, the Federalist Party basically went down, and he just kind of got lost to history. So I mean, it is kind of an interesting story.
Yeah,
I actually think Aaron Burr is kind of an underrated founding father, because if you read the biographies about him, he was kind of a badass because he was super into women's rights, and he thought women should get the right to vote and shit like that. And I mean, he tried to conquer Mexico or whatever, but we all fuck up,
Yeah. Well, it's all those 18th century people. They're bound to just have one really shitty thing about them. It's like if you're pro-abolition and then pro-women's rights. I mean, for being a white male in 18th century, pretty impressive.
Yeah, and the actual thing that that got Hamilton and Burr to like actually duel was this wasn't in the musical, but like Hamilton wrote a letter to Burr, and there was apparently like historically there was a sentence that Hamilton wrote that pissed Burr off so much that he basically like ended their friendship and challenged him to a duel, and no one knows what that sentence is. But there's a book called Burr by Gore Vidal, and Gore Vidal basically guesses that Hamilton kind of insinuated that Burr and his daughter like have like an incestuous relationship or some shit like that, which I think is probably the best theory there is. And after that, like Burr just lost his shit or whatever. But I mean, it's really fucking interesting.
So it's not. I knew it had to do with the disagreement, but I guess it's not officially, or I mean, it's more theoretical than.
It was definitely. I think it was definitely like a personal disagreement for sure.
Yeah.
Because I mean, those motherfuckers were friends for like their entire lives, like during the fucking war and all that shit.
Yeah. I mean, it says Vice President Burr ran for governor of New York State in 1804, and Hamilton crusaded against him as unworthy.
Yeah, that's true, because he went against him for Jefferson, and that's just because Hamilton was kind of a douchebag sometimes, because he thought Jefferson was better.
Hampton. Hamilton was a bit of a, I mean, he was a politician. Like, he basically got the central bank established. Is Jefferson and whoever his other ally was, like, they really badly wanted the capital in the South because, the capital was in Philadelphia at the time. They wanted to move to the South.
Right.
Hamilton, they
Jefferson and Madison.
bank, but yeah, well, they wanted it, James Madison. So they wanted it so bad. So Hamilton said, "Look, you let me have the bank, I'll let you have the capital in the South." And then he got the bank,
Yep.
which ended up being, great. It's kind of interesting how even though the Federalist Party subsided in favor of the Democratic Republicans, their ideas eventually won out. And I think part of that was because, people like Jefferson, the very, very anti-centrist, very pro-state, that sounds kind of cute and, idealistic in theory, but when you actually practice it and you don't have any regulatory economic system or money or government and central laws, you can't really last. I mean, ultimately,
Yeah. Well, I have two things.
Yeah,
I have two things to say about that because number one, I think like Jefferson's probably like my least favorite historical figure. I think he was a fucking douchebag generally because he was advocating for the French Revolution.
Yeah.
That all these motherfuckers deserve to slaughter them for freedom, while at the same time living on a plantation with like 12 slaves and fucking Sally, whatever her last name was. So I mean, he is the biggest hypocrite probably in American history, but it gets lauded as this huge, this great figure. But the reason that Hamilton's like his banking system went down and everything is because he was close with Washington, and the economic system was established when Washington was president, and Washington basically deferred to Hamilton for all that shit. So he kind of laid everything, the foundation of everything down. And whenever Jefferson tried to like fuck it all up, he realized that he couldn't because the Hamilton was just way too smart in the way that he kind of set up the banking system and all that shit. And something I think is really interesting about Hamilton is that he had this idea of like aristocrats ruling the country. Like he hated like mass democracy. He hated like the idea of people rising up and like overcoming the government or the people in power, probably because he when he was living in he grew up in not Haiti, but it was like somewhere in the Caribbean, and there was like a slave uprising or something, and where like all like an entire island of people were just fucking massacred, and he had to like kind of escape. But so he just kind of had that in the back of his mind. But he kind of had this idea that the people who are in power are they're in power because they are the smartest and they're the wisest, and they're people who have the intentions of the country close at heart. So if the small group of people who are actually like good-hearted and shit like that run the country, things will be okay. And that's actually how he kind of lived his life, because he was a lawyer and he kind of worked mostly pro bono, even though he was like an incredibly powerful person. But he basically had that philosophy, and it's a good idea, but it just doesn't fucking work out as we see now 200 years later, you know?
Well, yeah, I guess you could almost argue that this is some sort of minor like revolution and overthrow of the way the government, our government's been working for a number of years. It's like we're tired of the system, so let's get a president that will just sign whatever executive order he wants, just ban random countries that we deem bad. Let's just get rid of all of the social service programs. Let's just put a giant wall. Let's just do all this unprecedented shit.
I mean, I don't know, because I mean, shit like this has happened before. I mean, when Roosevelt was president, he did a bunch of crazy shit with the executive order, because I mean, World War II was going on. Lincoln did crazy shit with executive orders. Like, I'm not like as like on the edge of my seat as fucking everyone else about that. Yeah. But I mean, it is kind of too. I think it's too early to tell with Trump.
Well, I guess my overall point is, because some of that did get turned back a little bit, especially under Roosevelt. And I mean, Trump keeps getting overturned, and he's going to be impeached at any moment. I think you sort of raised an interesting point, and I think that when like people like Hamilton and conservative philosopher Edmund Burke differentiated between the revolutions, like what happened in America and what happened in France, was while France was a complete overthrow of the monarch and being replaced by an angry mob, even though
Yeah.
the American Revolution was overthrown, at that point, the colonies were very much self-run anyway. I mean, the kings, the British military was there, but the king wasn't, really getting involved in the day-to-day economics and
Yeah.
law. And in a sense, the colonies were simply trying to preserve the way of life that they've been having for the last, several decades.
Yeah, I mean, they basically saw themselves as like an extension of England and the British colonies, and I mean something that someone brought this. I forgot who said this, but they kind of made a kind of a comparison to what's to the American Revolution and to Brexit, because the basic issue for both of them is like taxation without representation, because like the Americans were basically pissed off that they were getting taxed and they had no say about anything that goes on in England, so that they had the Boston Tea Party and shit like that. And with Brexit, the most of the Brexiters are kind of pissed off that they are they have people in power in the European Union who are appointed and not elected, so there's like this grain in like British thought where like voting is important, and that you can tax us but just like have someone represent us.
Yeah, but of course, the problem with you got to make sure with something like Brexit that you don't completely turn upside down an entire
Yeah,
form of currency and economy. Like just
that's going to be interesting because I
a bunch
really
of
don't know
YouTube
how it's
guys.
going to pan out.
Yeah, well, it's like a bunch of YouTube guys, for example. I'm not really an expert on British economics, but they're really scared of the difficulties that Brexit will have. And I mean, I think the issue with that is didn't seem to be a whole lot of thoughts. Like James Cameron, he kind of supported it, and then they voted for it, and then he abruptly resigned, and then no one knew what they were going to do. They had like this oddball Trump-like loudmouth. I can't remember his name. That was
Nigel Farage.
yes, thank you. Um, yeah, it's. I think just kind of the overall point is, you got to be very careful. Revolution is such this all-encompassing term. It could either be kind of this really well thought out, not perfect, but something that's taken years and years to consider and then make a decision, and then just acting out of impulse. And now everyone is stuck.
Yeah, well,
You got rid of a problem.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, number one, I don't think any revolutionary, like I think every revolutionary thinks that they have all the right answers and that they are completely in the right and they're well thought out. I mean, revolution is kind of a spontaneous thing, so it's kind of hard to. I mean, it's impossible for them to know if they're on the right side or wrong side of history, and really the only way they know that is if they fucking win the revolution. Um,
Yeah.
but with Brexit, I mean, my thing with Brexit is I have yet to hear any good argument for why they should stay within the European Union. Because I mean, just the fact that they are living under an organization that doesn't fucking elect their people is bullshit. You know?
Oh, oh, oh.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I think we got
Okay.
that off. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying that the only thing the thing about Brexit is that I have yet to hear like a good reason why Brexit is a bad thing, because I mean the main point of well, number one, the European Union is failing like fucking crazy, and number two, like just the basic layout of the European Union as I've learned about it, the fact that these people are appointed to like this meta organization and basically run the fucking continent is kind of fucking ridiculous. At least the economy of the.
Yeah. Let me I'm trying to pull out an article on that that kind of explained at least that side. I'm not entirely sure myself. Um, but there was, yeah. But because I think the main issue was basically, I mean, they were upset about the money, but I think about the protections as well by the EU, the economic protections, just the more uniform movement, without much thought into how you were going to replace it or how you were even going to interact with the rest of Europe. I mean, I think
Right.
those are the main. I mean, that's a very simplified version of it, by the way.
Yeah, but I mean that's like it, and to me like that's with that and with Trump or I mean and things I mean it's the weird thing because like for me they're both being done by people who I fundamentally like dislike. Like I don't fucking like Nigel Farage or I don't like fucking Trump, but like I don't entirely disagree with the direction they're trying to go in because like if you look at like the overarching directions of both systems like previously I think the European Union and I think the way that like things like NATO and NAFTA and all that shit were going is that they were going in the direction of like almost like an Alex Jones one world government where everything's fucking consolidated and like I fundamentally disagree with the idea of a consolidated like in consolidating more and more governments. I think there should be as many governments as possible and there should be a community of nations or governments and like if that's the direction that like they explicitly say that they're going behind like I would be totally for it but I'm not sure that's where it's going to go because if you just have like one fucking government if you just have one organization controlling this huge span of countries like it becomes easier and easier for fascism to take place and for authoritarianism to have absolutely no consequences.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you at all. It's just there's not much of a simple answer because the one thing I liked about the EU is they they regulated and they keep a very good eye on banning, making sure that certain businesses which cause a danger to civilians are banned. One of the main things is the flight industry. You have, of course, you have like the Malaysian Airlines, the Iran Airlines, and some of the notoriously dangerous airlines that the EU has gotten together, investigated, and banned and prevented them from going.
In
But without
Malaysia.
having that more global or like more continental economy, that would have been more difficult to do. So I think basically what I am saying is that yeah, if a place like that can control an entire economy in the Eastern Hemisphere, it could be very dangerous. But you just got to do what you can to have a set of checks and balances. It's like we go back to before. People like Thomas Jefferson were afraid about what this whole central federal government would do to the individual freedoms of each of the states, and that is a legitimate concern. But you need that central government to be more unified and to have more strength, to know that people aren't having like random taxes and tariffs and bullying other countries. And so there's certainly cons, but I feel like if something like that is being carefully watched over, it has its place. And I think sort of breaking off and doing your own thing and putting the employees of the workforce of your country in this fear about what's going to happen. I it feels a little rash. I guess that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying there's not an argument for it. The decision felt rash and impulsive and not well thought out, and without considering the good things that have come from it and could come from it. Because they talk about the membership fees, but you look at the calculation. I mean, they're like I get the penalties for getting out and all that. I mean, that in itself. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna be like I said, I don't know how that's gonna work out, but it's gonna be interesting. Taxation is theft, dog. That's all I gotta say.
What's that?
Taxation is theft, dog. I'm just gonna
Huh?
go the libertarian way.
Oh, hey, are you libertarian now? I'm trying to remember.
No, I mean, I think like government generally is it's better for things like I think that there are lots of things that government is taking care of that I think that are decided in government that should be decided by culture a lot of the time. Um, like things like military, I I I, I don't think should be maybe like I think a military is one of the requirements of government. Uh, like government, police, all the basic shit. Like I'm not a fucking anarchist, but like I do lean in the direction of less government, even though I know it's not going to be fucking achievable ever,
What
especially in
about
America.
But what about basic social services and stuff? Like, do you support Trump's proposals to cut the national endowment of the budget for PBS and for Meals on Wheels?
I've been really going back and forth on that because, like, I don't think that, because I think the way that the left is framing it is that the like things like, you know, healthcare and Meals on Wheels, like these are rights, and I don't agree that they're rights, but I think that they're things that, you know, if the government can do it, why the fuck not? Shouldn't they do it? You know?
Yeah.
I've never watched PBS in my fucking life, but I don't fucking care if they do it. NPR is boring as shit, but like whatever. I know people love NPR.
I think you make an important point. Like, they can do it. These are not expensive programs, and they're being assaulted under this ridiculous propaganda that they're costly. Meanwhile, Trump is talking about and proposing an $80 billion increase to the military, but we got to cut the NEA, our resources.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we knew for certain that if these things were privatized and we knew that they could function just as good or if not better, I would say why not? You know, like I have nothing like forcing myself that wants to make it like a public entity forever. You know, but like. But in the libertarian, like this is the thing that like a lot of like conservative people have is like yes, these are things that are in the government. They shouldn't be in the government because like taxation is theft to begin with, you know. And like I actually kind of like I've been thinking about this idea a lot because I go to I go to a lot of libertarian like Facebook pages, and like I think like fundamentally taxation is theft, but it's like necessary theft because there's no other fucking way to do it better. So like I don't have to like all like these government programs and all the things that government does, but like I need it because there's no other fucking way to go about it, you know?
Yeah, and I mean we drive on roads, right?
Yeah, libertarians get super pissed off at roads.
Yeah, like the libertarians don't get just how much stuff like is paid for by taxes and stuff you don't want to be paid by anything for taxes. Imagine if a fucking corporation ran the roads and they decided that they didn't like you or your family or they didn't like something you posted about them on Facebook. So
I actually just made a video on that by like the other day because I was really actually thinking a lot about that question. And have you ever been to Grand Isle in Louisiana?
I haven't actually, no.
Okay. So when you go to Grand Isle, like there's a toll booth, and I was thinking about that when I was at Grand Isle, and because it's a private road, and I was just thinking, you know, if we lived in a fucking anarcho-capitalist society where every single road was private, most likely there would be one person who owned every street. So there would be 20. Say you need to go to the grocery store, and there are 20 streets there. That means there would most likely be 20 toll booths for every fucking street because everyone would be charging for maintenance to that road to every person that drives through that road. So you'd have to pay like $60 just in fucking toll booths to go get there, get a fucking piece of bread or whatever you're getting going over there for, and then drive back and do the exact same thing over again.
Exactly.
It would be a fucking hell on earth. I hate one toll booth. Like I couldn't deal with that many fucking toll booths.
Now, I'll say this, like the argument to that is, I got a point here, is that they'd eventually find a more efficient way, which would still be expensive, but that's what I'm getting at, to where you didn't have to stop at a toll booth where you could pay a monthly fee. But that still leaves the problem that you got to pay for the road. And if that guy wants to jack up the prices, like guess what? Every other major corporation, Best Buy just raised prices on a bunch of their shit, Walmart, cutting down on workers, or if they decide they just don't want to fix the roads or get it done, like they have no, there's no recourse for us. So you're going to have this one rich millionaire with shitty roads overcharging everybody. And if you can't afford it, too bad. It's just
yeah, and like I actually like I do think that like some libertarians make good points because I think they bring a necessary perspective, especially now because we're in the exact opposite of libertarian land, where we have surveillance. The CIA is fucking listening to this conversation probably, and I think that that criticism needs to be there constantly. That the government's bullshit. But when you actually look into the ideas of how they apply their own utopian society, it kind of falls flat.
Yeah, well, I think they they have sort of the right idea of less government. Like, for example, in almost all of the social issues, I agree with them. But it's very black and white, simplistic. And I know, like, I used to be a really hardcore libertarian,
Yeah.
where it's like, there's some things that the government should not be. Like, for example, abortion, gay rights, and human rights. I'm not going to list them all. But
Yeah.
there's certain things, like, for example, basic public services that people need, things that can improve people's quality of life, like art, education, reading, food, if you need to, like, certain things that they need to do. And then, of course, things like, the firefighters, cops, prisons. Could we please get back to that? Could we please put the fucking government back into prisons as opposed to the private sector?
Yeah.
Of course, the military, not spending $100 million on certain jets that never see the light of day, but they need to have militaries. And of course, like regulating gun law. So there's some things that the government should do. I don't understand why it has to be an all or nothing thing. Like, yeah, I don't want them telling a woman what they should do with their body, but I want them to spend money on a library.
Because the argument is because the government is utterly incompetent at everything it does in any endeavor that it partakes in.
Well, yeah, but the government is inefficient. I will say that they absolutely are. But efficiency in itself is not a good thing. Like, for example, Walmart or even oil companies make billions and billions of dollars and they're efficient, but they're also having a very negative impact on the environment around them. And so, even though, for example, governments don't run the roads more efficiently than what maybe a private company would do, it's a lot safer for everyone, and everyone's quality of life would be better, and people wouldn't have to worry about it. Like, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm willing to sacrifice bottom line and efficiency for security, in some areas.
Yeah, I could see that.
Um, it's like people complain about the DMV and how inefficient it is. Well, how about if the head of the DMV says, "No, I'm sorry, we don't serve your kind here. You can't get a driver's license." I certainly don't want that. And so,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
I mean, they would probably be fired if they did that.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Well, what if it was the CEO who said that?
Who said no black people gets driver's license?
Yeah, well, that's what libertarians say. There shouldn't be any laws.
Oh, okay. You're applying to libertarianism. Okay. Yeah, right.
I mean, of course, the DMV now.
Well, I mean, they would say that black people would get their own DMV.
Oh, separate but equal.
There would be a white DMV and a black DMV.
Yeah, yeah. But it's so funny we're talking about this, but you kind of see how we're going back to the 19th century. It's like we're trying to follow the chain of logic from just this, like you said, this odd idea of what everything being privatized would be, and now we just end up with Plessy versus Ferguson again.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of it really is just the same questions being recirculated, but I mean, the conversation is being diluted by more and more extremists. Like it's at a point where I'm beginning to tune out just because everyone's you can't say we're like in this weird age where like your idea people judge your worth as a person based off your political beliefs. Like it's getting more and more to that stage, and it's like it's making me more and more like not care about anything.
Yeah, it's well, there's just so much of it today, especially on Facebook. Of course, at the same time, it's difficult to avoid. I mean, you can't just pretend that excuse me, that this dangerous guy isn't president, that this dangerous guy is passing these horrible, horrible orders, and that people are looking to, replace an albeit imperfect healthcare system, a healthcare system that's going to drive up the cost tenfold for the older population and leave 24 million uninsured. And
yeah, I haven't really researched the new healthcare bill that much. I probably should, but man, something about healthcare just bores the fuck out of me. I don't know what it is.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming, do you get health insurance from the newspaper you work at?
Yeah, well, I get it from my employer.
Your employer, yeah, or whoever, yeah. So it's like, I mean, obviously, as long as you have full time jobs and stuff, like I get it as well. I know a lot of people they don't get it, and they're as it is. Some of them just choose not to have it because it costs 400, $500. Now I'll say this, like this new bill, and I know you don't. I guess you haven't looked at it enough. I'll shut up about it, but the new bill would probably benefit actually our age a little bit, mainly because we are lower risk, right?
Right.
But the people who get older, I think they estimated you're going to pay an average from like 1,700 to like 10,000 or something ridiculous. And
Yeah.
but the whole reason Obamacare came about is that we can prevent people from having to pay more just because they're a bigger risk of getting sick. Like that's what we were trying to avoid, and then we're going back to that problem. It's driving me nuts.
Yeah.
So,
I really like do not feel strongly either way. Like I'm almost like fucking nationalize it. Just fucking do it already.
yeah,
well, I don't give a shit. I really don't. My libertarian friends would probably fucking kill me for that, but I don't. Just it's another tax. Who cares?
Yeah, it's right. And just tell your libertarian friends that every other first world country does it, and they do okay. Our channels, they aren't communist. Just whatever. I'm guessing you have a lot of libertarian friends, based by the way you refer to them.
Yeah, I have a few on Twitter, basically, pretty much.
Wow. You have a big Twitter following. I know you work.
Not anymore. I'm doing like this. I'm trying to beef up this YouTube channel I just made. It's been pretty fun. Like I got like 1,000 views the other day when I was like drunkenly ranting on a video I made.
I didn't realize you had a YouTube channel. I'll have to check it out. Is it,
yep. Well, this is what it's gonna be published on. So.
Okay, cool. Is this what's your channel name? Corey Vaughn?
No, it's God damn it, Mills. It's Bosa.
You weren't supposed to know.
You fucked up the mistake.
No one heard that.
Yeah.
Not everyone can know where you live or some shit like that.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to keep like my professional journalist life way like separate from my shit posting life, but
that's right. So
that's probably not going to be possible.
When you go to a bar and introduce your first and last name, the girl will just say you're the newspaper guy, and then we'll throw her drink into your.
Well, it's mostly like on Facebook that I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Because I try to be as apolitical as possible when I'm like working as an actual journalist.
Yeah, I mean, do they let you like on your own free time? Do they mind if you say things on Facebook? Or?
I mean, probably not. I mean, I can pretty much do whatever I want, but it's not really my employers. It's like my sources that I'm worried about.
I gotcha. Yeah. How many? If you were to just put a number on sources you have, I know you've told me about some of them before, but I mean, how many sources do you think?
Oh man,
a lot.
50 to 80, maybe that I talk to on a regular basis about that much.
Yeah. Like politicians and stuff. I know you had that one guy.
Politicians, yeah, I mean people work in government departments, the police, yeah, because I mean I cover 7 cities, so there's government officials in all those places, and they're like community activists, and they're all that kind of stuff. So
cool. All right. And what newspaper is this, by the way? I keep forgetting.
It's the New York Times.
The New York Times.
That's it.
50 Twitter followers or sources
exactly.
For the New York Times. That's right. We're bringing the mystique back.
I'm really like starting to hate the New York. Like, did you keep up with that whole PewDiePie thing?
Oh, where he like threatened to delete his channel if YouTube changed their terms of service to the new thing. But yeah, are you talking about that?
Where they called him out because like he made like 10 Hitler jokes on his channel.
Oh no, I didn't hear that.
No, yeah, well they wrote like the Wall Street Journal wrote this like this epic fucking article about PewDiePie and the fact that like he made some Hitler jokes, which are obviously jokes on his channel, but from what I can tell, no one was immediately offended, but they were calling him. They said he was a racist and that and the call saying that parents should watch out for their children watching a Swedish Nazi lover or something like that. It was like the closest thing to a hit piece I've ever seen in journalism. It was amazing.
Well, yeah. By the way, that is actually like you asked me if anything about the left bothered me. That's actually the one thing. Some kind of this blatant dishonesty in the terms of phony outrage. Like I remember this one. Hold on a second. Let me put this up. Hold on, podcast people.
It's a YouTube show, not a podcast.
This is great. It's like every whatever, but every like 3 minutes is like, hold on, I gotta do something. I've this before. Oh, here, I'll just figure it out.
Do we have any comments? Oh, no comments.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. I just spent the last minute trying to put milk in the fridge and I was unsuccessful, so I'm just going to try it later.
Nice.
Yeah, but like for example, I remember I think 3 or 4 years ago there was this guy in Indiana who he just gave like this list of Asian jokes, and it was actually really awful. Like it wasn't funny at all, but he was so obviously trying to be funny.
Yeah.
But everyone was like, "This guy is a racist," and I'm like, I know they're not that stupid. That is, they just want so badly to be angry at something that they will just be deliberately dishonest about someone's position.
Yeah, it's getting really bad. Like I have like friends from my UL days who are like openly talking about how Marxism is great and how these people are just like trash. It's really crazy right now. I mean, the biggest thing is fucking Antifa, who like no one fucking talks about, is that there is a group of domestic terrorists who are beating the shit out of people for being politically incorrect.
Antifa? See, I've never heard of them.
Antifa, it stands for anti-fascist. They're you've seen them probably because they're the guys who like they usually wear all black and they go to all these big protests. Like they were at the Milo protest a few weeks ago, if you know about that, and they're just beating the shit out of people. Like there was one girl who wore a red hat that said it was, they thought it was a Make America Great Again hat, but it was some other fucking hat, and like they straight up punched the girl while she was in the middle of an interview.
Wonderful. Oh yes, that's yeah. I've seen these, and this is another group that you see a lot of your liberal friends and maybe on Facebook not post. But why don't you understand? Why can't people just say, yeah, these people might agree with some of my ideas, but what they're doing is absolutely wrong.
Yeah, I mean the minute that like, because there are it is like, because I mean I have plenty of liberal friends. Like I don't give a fuck if you're liberal, but there are like scattered people here and there that I see that are like that end up there are reaching the stage where they think violence is okay in like this political atmosphere or whatever. And like the minute that they actually agree to that is the minute you become an extremist.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And it's becoming more and more acceptable on the left. I don't know if it's acceptable on the right. I can't think of any examples right now.
Yeah.
Right are fucking stupid for their own reasons.
You know, I think fairly recently, like the Tea Party had some incidents, although I just attribute that more to you have these giant organizations of protest, so you're bound to have a couple of assholes. And I mean, that's pretty much what it is right now, because the majority of the protests are on the left. And it's not to minimize it, but it's just going to be something that's happening. But and that wouldn't be an issue for us to deal with if we just said, like, can't fucking do that. And if we find someone who does it, throw them out and make sure they're never allowed in the protest again, or enforce that as best as you can.
But these are actually like organized things. It's crazy. The like is getting more like did you hear about in Breaux Bridge there was like this town hall meeting that Bill Cassidy, who's like the Louisiana senator, he like organized it, and like when he went to the meeting, there was it was found out that there was a ton of protesters who were like yelling like, "Don't you fucking, you're gonna take away our healthcare." And like they were getting super angry, and then we found out like 2 weeks before it was like actually an organized thing where they were planning in Lafayette to actually go to do this thing, and they were saying, "This is what you do. This is how to get media attention. These are the steps you need to take so that our concerns are heard." you know, and you can debate whether that's like a good thing, but it's like it's fucking organized now, you know. It's not like just this spontaneous thing.
Are you talking about the Friday meeting that he went to a few weeks ago?
I don't know if it was like it might have been last month because like he went to one maybe in like in Baton Rouge and went to one in Bro Bridge.
Or Bro Bridge, yeah. I don't see anything necessarily wrong with that type of organization. Now, of course, if it involves physical violence,
Right? Yeah, yeah, right. But and also like, but if you're making yourself look like you're like the spontaneous thing, I think like that's deceptive. But
yeah,
that's kind of weird. But I mean, I really don't have I don't really have a problem with it other than that.
yeah, yeah. Well, obviously, um, I mean, it's. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm trying to find like someone told me to turn on the live chat. I'm trying to fucking figure out how.
Well, is there? Well, I guess there's not any way that I can see it.
No.
I mean, I could probably just go on your channel and can I go on your channel and just look at some.
Well, someone wants to Nick. Tell me how to fucking turn it on, dude.
Oh, live chat. You don't like it. Okay. Well,
yeah. What were you saying?
oh shit. See, there was actually something. Yeah, no, I mean, I think the personal issue that I am having is that some of the more extreme sections of liberalism have these expectations of categories that you need. Like, for example, if you're a liberal, you must also be a feminist. You must also be anti-Israel. You must also be, pro-GLAD. Whatever. And if you voice your concerns about them, they'll immediately drown you out and accuse you for not being a real liberal or something.
Yeah, I mean the problem with it, like the way I've kind of defined it is that there's something in like I don't want to say like it's Marxist, but like there's something in like the way the liberal philosophy was formed that your morality, your worth as a person is based on the beliefs you hold rather than the actions you take.
Yeah.
And I think that's not true for like other political opinions, and that's why I think the climate we're in is so like dangerous now, because I mean what we should be getting back to is like the idea of like virtue ethics, like Aristotle, where like the cultivation of virtue and the way you demonstrate your good to the world or a community determines your worth as a person, not just what you fucking believe. Like that's fucking stupid, but like that's the implicit idea behind all this shit.
Right. And it's kind of operated off this arrogant idea that what the right thing is to believe. You can determine someone's character by what they believe. And if it's different from you.
Yeah, and I mean that's why people call liberals smug all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Because I mean they really believe they are the enlightened ones. So
yeah, there is certainly a lot of that. But and there are a lot that aren't like this, but
yeah, there are, and like I've just been watching too much of the Young Turks lately. I think that's probably why.
Oh God, see, I think the Young Turks are kind of insufferable, especially that guy.
Okay, well I'm glad, because like I remember like a few years ago I used to have a Young Turks jacket, and you kicked my ass for it, but I was wondering if you had converted to the Young Turks while
I kicked your ass probably for the wrong reasons at the time, because I was like, oh, they're just liberal. But they're kind of very much the whole, like, if someone posts something racist on Twitter, find out where they live and fortune beat the shit out of them and things like that. It's that very much that kind of intolerant, dogmatic, fight violence with violence types of things. And
yeah,
yeah.
I mean the thing because like the fucking YouTube hates the Young Turks. They fucking hate what's Cenk Uygur. And the thing about like I don't fucking hate Cenk Uygur as a person. Like I think he's like I agree with him with some things and I disagree with him on like a lot of other things. But the fact that the problem that whole channel did was they like put themselves in a bubble where they refused to hear any other voices besides their own super progressive enlightened voices, and like they just fucking refused to like to interact with anyone who believes anything slightly different. Like do you know Dave Rubin?
No.
Okay, he used to work for the Young Turks, and he was this gay guy, and when Cenk Uygur had a debate with Sam Harris, I don't know if you know who that is. He's an atheist, kind
Oh
of
yeah,
intellectual. Okay,
oh yeah, huge fan of Sam Harris. Yeah.
yeah, like they Cenk Uygur was like calling him for being like an Islamophobe, and so Sam Harris decided, hey, was like, hey, let's go have a debate about this, and so they have ended up having like a 5 hour debate, and like Sam Harris fucking schools Cenk Uygur,
Oh,
and it seems like at the end, like they kind of agree on everything, but then the next day, Cenk Uyghur's back calling Sam Harris an Islamophobe again. So
oh yeah.
like Dave Rubin like realized at that moment they're like, oh, like this is fucking cancer. Like I'm quitting, and now he actually has like a pretty successful YouTube channel. It's interesting, but yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that kind of demonstrates just like how
Well,
fucked it all is.
for being open, but I think because one of the things that I have loved a lot of the atheists, there are a lot of atheists on YouTube who, they still do a lot of the anti-religion stuff, but some of their videos, I'm thinking of like Dark Matter, The Amazing Atheist, The Thinking Atheist, Bible Reloaded, whatever.
Yeah,
Those people have begun to shift some of their criticism onto the left, and mainly like the idea of disliking Islam. And one thing to notice is that they think if you dislike the religion of Islam, you dislike Muslims.
right.
No, that's absolutely not true. Like, if you look at the Bible or look at the Quran, it's very intolerant. It has the same awful, egregious things that the Bible does. And it's okay to point that out. Muslims twist and backflip and make justifications for the Quran the same way the Christians do for the Bible, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Certain factions of the left won't hear it. They will not hear that explanation. They will call them Islamophobes.
Yeah, the
And
alliance between Islam and like the far left is fucking insane. Like honestly, because
yeah,
like the fact that Muslims are like throwing gay people off roofs, and then they're like these self proclaimed socialist feminists,
well,
uh,
exactly.
who are like saying protect the Muslims. It's fucking insane.
You're absolutely right. And I think of the Orlando shooter, and everyone was saying that being Muslim had no like bearing on it. Well, it absolutely did.
Uh,
Gay sentiment from his Muslim family, and it's okay to admit that because Islam is anti-gay in the same way that a lot of other deity-based religions are. And the fact that people would deny that his religion took any effect into what happened is
yeah,
ridiculous. And it's not to say that everyone who believes that does that, but you can't deny that if someone takes the Quran literally, they can justify doing terrible things to people, and they've been
right.
doing that. I mean, we do it all the time.
I just got the live stream up actually, and
Awesome.
Nick, who's watching the stream, asked if I saw the debate between Cenk Uygur and Karen Strong, and I did. And Karen Strong is like a very interesting men's rights activist, and so she debates Cenk Uygur, and like by the end, like Jink, like they had like this debate, and Jink's apparently hung over during the debate or something. Like she explained it after, but at the end of it, Jink like tells her to go make him a sandwich or some shit like that.
Oh,
And
really?
it's fucking hilarious. But yeah, I did see it, Nick.
I'm gonna look. Karen Strong, you said?
Karen Strong, yeah, she's just like Canadian's men's right activist,
Girl
which is
rights.
a really fucking weird movement.
Yeah, it kind of is, but that's sort of one of those you'll see a lot of like anti-women in it. But
But there are like good points to it though, because like the idea that like men like usually lose custody to women in court and shit like that, like I totally agree with that shit. I think that's
yeah,
pretty fucked up and needs to be fixed,
or
But
even like yeah, or even things like, and this is another thing that's not maybe popular among feminists, is that a father's say in an abortion, because even though he's not carrying the child, that's still his child or the woman's child. And of course, that's not arguing that he should determine the woman, but like, why shouldn't he have a say in something like that? I mean, that's his kid as well.
yeah,
But you get a lot of like anti women guys who are socially awkward and couldn't get dates. Well, like me, but that's
there's definitely a stereotype.
Yeah, there is, but it's and part of that goes with the left narrative. Like if you support any men's right, you're anti-feminism, therefore you're anti-women, therefore you're you know
That does go both ways too, because like
it,
Trump
yeah,
supporters are calling the liberals like cucks, which is a word I fucking love, but I try not to use it.
yeah, yeah, and I think you know movements can get dogmatic even if they're well intentioned. Liberals got to realize that just as you can become intolerantly dogmatic with Christianity, you can do that even with feminism, which I think is a very important movement. Even though I don't identify as a feminist, feminism has had its place in society, and I think it still does to this day if practiced correctly. But
Oh,
you
that's
can,
interesting. You don't identify as a feminist. I would.
the reason I don't identify as a feminist is because I think modern day feminism has baggage that they have not addressed properly.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good way of putting it.
yeah, their inability to address like Rebecca Watson and Anita Sarkeesian and others as vile, horrible people as
Right.
being not what they are.
Right.
It's if you're not going to do that, I'm not going to be a part of your movement. Of course, then when I say that, they're like, "Well, if you're anti-feminist, you're not for women's right. If you believe in women's right, you're feminist." Like, well, no, you're wrong. You don't get to decide what my label is. It's something I choose to identify.
Yeah.
And just because I don't agree with everything you say doesn't mean I'm against equality for women. I disagree with some positions that are extreme, even though your intentions are good. And then,
That's the fucking like devious thing about these fucking people, because like if you say you're not feminist, they take like they try to paint you as meaning you hate women.
exactly,
Like there's the feminist movement and then there's women's rights. Like these are two separate things. Like there's liking women and liking the feminist movement. Those are two separate things. And like same and like I have the same feeling about Black Lives Matter. Like if you don't like Black Lives Matter, you hate all black people. They do the exact same thing to you.
right. Well, exactly. Yeah. And you try to
Devious motherfuckers.
yeah, and then they do not listen. The second you say that, the ears are shut right off.
Yeah.
I remember I think about a year ago when I made a post on Facebook about why I don't think the U.S. is a rape culture. People were bound and determined to let me know that I didn't believe rape happened and that I hated women. I'm like, no, this is my explanation. But no, they wouldn't have it, and then they would say, "You're being really stubborn on that point. You're being closed-minded." I mean, that Facebook post cost me a relationship with my girlfriend, which I guess
Really.
better. Yeah, it did. Better it to happen though when as opposed to if we're married or something.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
But yeah, but it's like either you believe we're rape culture, you don't believe rape is a problem, or you believe it's so like liberals, you guys get overly simplistic and dogmatic too. And I think what really discouraged me is that I felt like a trend was moving towards addressing that, and then Trump got elected. And so now we're back fighting this ridiculous fucking battle from the idiot religious
Well,
conservatives.
I mean, Trump's was really kind of a response to all that.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the only argument that's that people can understand of why Trump got elected, and that like I kind of I buy it.
Yeah. Well, the even though any conservative who criticized liberals for doing that might have been hypocritical, they could still point out that we did it.
Yeah, I mean the weird thing is like you mentioned, like atheists are the ones who I've kind of shifted their arguments from battling religion to battling like this far left ideology. Um, it's kind of strange because like well I think I honestly believe religion almost doesn't matter at all anymore. Like like in 2007 and 2008, like religion was a big fucking deal. Like Jerry Falwell was like on TV every fucking day. Like they actually had a voice and they had a lobby and they actually fucking mattered in the political conversation. Like that was the era. Like, but now that like
You know, you
atheists
know,
pretty much won that fucking war. And like the ones who actually have the power now, the ones who are actually like impacting the conversation are these like left wing Puritans who like want to say like how you can have sex or what gender the fucking call people and shit like that.
do you think that's the dominating conversation? Because a year ago today I would have agreed with you, but do you really think that that's irrelevant now?
What?
That these religious organizations like Liberty and Mars Hill and stuff, they don't have any impact on
I
people.
mean, okay, name me someone like a religious dude who's like really fucking a big deal right now.
Well, let me see. Let me think about it for a quick second. See, one of the big issues is that all of them have died, which
Yeah.
that's actually kind of in favor of your point because there's not really anyone replacing them.
Yeah, I
You
mean, I do think it's going to be replaced because I think we're in a space, especially right now, where there's a new religious movement's being created, but I don't think we're going to see it for a few years.
yeah,
But right now, I think it's I don't think it's there. I think we're it's like they just have no input in the conversation at all.
I think they're not on TV as much, but I mean the fact
One of the commenters said Kinham, which we did a
yeah,
whole podcast on last time. But no one takes fucking Kinham seriously. I really believe that. No one takes like only the fucking 12 people who go to that fucking stupid Noah's Ark amusement park
oh
takes
man.
Kinham seriously. Like everyone knows he's a fucking retard. He's a
Well,
fucking Australian retard.
yeah. Well, let's. He's actually from New Zealand, but I'm splitting it.
Same fucking thing.
Yeah. Um. But well, I mean about Ken. I mean, no one really like Christian apologists don't necessarily, or they don't really have influence. Like,
They stay in their fucking bubble, and like Jerry Falwell was like an important motherfucker. Like Billy Graham was an important motherfucker. You know,
yeah, you're right. Um.
like maybe and like even like fucking Pope Francis is basically a fucking liberal now.
Oh yeah, pretty much. Although he did a couple of years ago say that transgenders are demons, but I think he's backtracked on that. But
I don't know what the fuck to think about that dude because like everybody hates him on both sides and everybody loves him on both sides.
he's just kind of this odd, mentally unstable guy. I do want to address your point. I'm actually kind of agreeing with you because I think the way that they're going about it now is they're trying to be like, for example, let's talk about Ken Ham and the creationist arc, right? He's got to go to somewhere in the middle of Kentucky, a very religious state,
Yeah.
and he's got to exploit and he's got to manipulate the tax system to get a bunch of money. Like, he'll say things like, "Oh, we didn't accept any money from the government." Well, no, of course they didn't. But what's going to happen is come tax time, they pretty much get all that money back. And of course, by the way, the surrounding town has been devastated, and it's done absolutely nothing to revitalize the economy like people think it would because it's
Yeah,
been
well,
up to nowhere. But it's
if they have a flood though, they're good.
you're seeing you're seeing a lot more indirect uh, indirect type of stuff and more propaganda and more reaching out towards the kids because they don't quite have the influence that they did. I still think they have more of it than anyone, but it's really becoming a lot harder to pretend that their views aren't completely ridiculous. Like, yeah, no one really takes Ken Ham seriously because he just repeats the same "Were you there?" argument over and over again.
Yeah.
By the way, I just real quick, I do want to say that the Ken Ham Bill Nye debate was actually one of the first major turnarounds for me.
Yeah, I like I remember seeing that when it came out. I remember nothing of the content, but I remember thinking that Ken Ham actually kind of won it just because Bill Nye wasn't a very good debater. But the facts were on Bill Nye. I obviously agree with more with Bill Nye.
So you didn't think that Bill Nye debated because he actually surprised me. I thought he did a pretty good job with it.
Yeah, I honestly can't argue because I remember nothing about why I thought because I had an argument with someone about this, but and I just remember thinking that was my thought at the time.
Yeah, I would definitely. I mean, it's kind of long, but I definitely check it out again.
I'm really like I'm tired of those fucking like I used to watch every fucking Christopher Hitchens debate. Like I've seen everyone on YouTube and like I'm just tired. I know all the arguments. I know all the shit. Like I'm let's fucking move on with life,
Yeah,
America.
yeah. Well, well, I'll say this: I do believe the debates still need to happen because unfortunately their nonsensical side is still relevant. But I think you do make an interesting point that yeah, it's the cosmological argument, the Kalam cosmological argument, presupposition, were you there, argument from ignorant. It's like it's the same four or five things, and you'll bring all of these, you bring all of these people to these debates, and the questions will range from did God exist to did Jesus rise from the dead to does God provide the superior moral structure or whatever.
Right. And
And
I'm kind of a weirdo about this anyway because I only look at like that whole conversation in terms of like as pragmatically as possible. Like I honestly don't care what you think about like the universe and whether or not there's like a creator or something. Like the only thing I care about is how that affects your day to day life and how that affects you in society. And for the fucking most part, like a fundamentalist old 90-year-old Baptist like doesn't affect my fucking life that much. Like that, she's nice. She keeps to herself. She believes some kind of kooky things about dinosaurs, but like that's about it.
you know, but
Now
no,
you can make the argument that there's legislation they're trying to pass, which
yeah,
the only thing is the only one thing I can think of is the science, the creationism and science classes, and I'm like, it's like what the fuck ever. Like
yeah.
even if you do teach that, like kids will see. I really believe that most kids will see like, okay, well, this other theory is a lot more fleshed out.
I don't know if I agree with that. And even if they do figure it out, I mean, think about the idea of evolution. It's a very complex thing to understand. You have the basic stuff, but just really understanding from becoming from a cell to becoming a bunch of cells to developing an eye to developing a brain to developing that's a lot of stuff to learn. And to really understand it, it's something you need to be ingrained in you in the same way that arithmetic and reading is. And we are being so cheated out of this opportunity to make evolution kind of this very easy, attainable knowledge because people aren't taught it. Like, Corey, I didn't realize that the Big Bang had nothing to do with evolution until I was 18 years old. 18. I grew up in a school where I grew up in the Earth is 6,000 years old. Dinosaurs live with human school.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah, and I mean it's even at the age of 28, I still feel like I'm trying to learn as much as I can, but I still feel like I am behind, and I would not have been behind if that had been taught when I was growing up. So I mean, I actually feel that that matters a lot. And if we want our education system to be better, we gotta not have a system where people are telling your teachers are telling children that there's an invisible man in the sky who said poof and then everything appeared. I think
Yeah,
that's
I really like don't believe in the education system that much. I have so little faith in it that I just like that's just one more thing that needs to be fixed on a lot of other things. Like
yeah,
especially like, and I mean Nick just commented with the internet. I think people can see it through a lot more BS, which I mean is pretty fucking true nowadays.
yeah, I know, absolutely, and that's part. I think a big part of the reason why the religious right doesn't have the power they used to. They just don't control it.
Well, I don't think that's the reason because I mean that these fucking far left lunatics are still controlling things. But the thing was that like the thing that I think broke it was like Christopher Hitchens going down south in 2007 and having debates with all these fucking pastors and which made a lot of people realize like these basic arguments that they've heard their entire lives had very easy opposing arguments to them. And then that got put on YouTube and millions of people saw that shit, and all of a sudden this like mystical hole that people had, that fundamentalist Christianity had on like a lot of people, started to dissipate.
Yeah,
It maybe it didn't dissipate in terms of religious belief, but it dissipated in terms of the political authority that they suppose they had over them.
the seeds are planted. Like I said, the Bill Nye Ken Ham debate was a big step for me. And then, and I think another thing to realize, I think when Hitchens exposed himself, and as these atheists continue to do so, atheists aren't. We get this idea, especially growing up down here, that atheists are these angry, miserable people that murder babies and have no hope for life and don't believe in anything. And that's obviously not true. We can be friendly, warm, compassionate, decent people with a purpose in life. And it's so just, showing up in these churches and stuff and the creation museum making these debates, like Bill Nye, he's not this horrible blood eater, children eater. He's just a pretty, genuine, down to earth, okay type of guy who just wants to share what he believes and why we need to accept science over religion, and this perception of this whole angry sociopathic atheist is eroding because we're making ourselves known more.
Yeah, well, like I'm at a weird place because, like, I mean, I've had that idea, like, I've kind of held those secular beliefs like for so long that I'm almost kind of starting to look back into religious beliefs almost because, like, I take all that shit for granted. Like, I take for granted that Kinaham's a fucking idiot. I take for granted that secular humanism is the pervading philosophy for most intelligent people in America. But I mean, if you look at like the civilization we're in, and our civilization has basically been leading up to those ideas for the past like since the Enlightenment, since like 300 400 years. So if you look at that and you look at the problems that we have now in America for people who are completely quote unquote adjusted to normal American life, if you look at them, they are over, and you could probably talk to those because you're a fucking counselor, but they're overwhelmingly like depressed, they are anxious, they have lack of direction in life, and
Yeah.
the idea and that's when the religious idea I think becomes appealing because say what you will about Christianity or Catholicism or whatever, but when you have those beliefs, you have a purpose in life. You have a clear idea of how you're supposed to live and a code of ethics and a morality and a set of principles. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately that I don't know if like secular humanism can actually create something like that because like to me that's the problem right now, the sense of directionlessness and this depression that's all over the country and the world.
Well, I think, yeah. Well, let me think about that for a second because since I've started to kind of adopt secular humanism, because I don't like adopt because it makes it almost sound like it's a religion, which it's really not. It's the general idea of self empowerment, and that we're capable of self empowerment.
But the thing is like that is an ideology though. The idea of those are the ideas that we all take for granted. Like the idea that we need to be happy, that we need to have personal fulfillment. That's actually an ideology that we all have in our brains. Even
Yeah,
religious people have that
but
fucking idea, and it actually creates an anxiety because it makes people think like, "Am I being happy? Like, am I being fulfilled enough? Am I doing enough with my fucking life?" You know?
yeah, but I don't think that, and I mean, some people, by the way, can interpret that, but I don't think that humanism involves a demand for
I don't consider myself a
exclusive
humanist, by the way.
happiness. What's that?
I don't really consider myself a humanist, but
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, that's fine. Um, I think it's just the idea that we are capable of creating our own meaning, and as long as we continue to strive for that and live that out as best as we can, we're not always going to be happy, but we are going to be fulfilled. The problem with a non-religion is that there's not a set defined purpose in life. And I think that's sort of what you were saying, but Christianity tells you exactly who to worship, what you do, where you go when you're done, or any other religion for that matter. And the idea of creating your meaning for yourself and deciding what your own meaning is can be scary, especially if you've been taught and grew up in a religion where you're nothing and you need a deity to make your sins wash whole and you're this horrible person. You're so lucky that this guy cared for you. I mean, you're going to have a very low sense of self worth. But
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that. I mean, but the problem for me is that I mean, that you're talking about on a personal level. I think on a societal level, it also creates problems because if there's statistics to show that like atheists are or there's a trend for them to get married, say less than religious people. There's a trend for them to have kids, or there's single parents, a lot more single parents. There's all that kind of shit where families and all that kind of shit become more destabilized, you can make an argument for leads to more crime and all that kind of shit.
well, I don't. I mean, I have to pull up the stats offhand, but
Yeah, me
higher,
neither. I really,
higher rates of divorce and out of wedlock pregnancy or in the
exactly.
South. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was agreeing with you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I think I must have misheard you. Yeah. And I mean, we are pretty much one of the few, one if not, one of the few developed nations in the world that is as religious as we are. And I think when people say, well, You don't like you have to decide your own purpose. That must be stressful. The way I look at it is like you wouldn't want someone to choose like what your career is. You wouldn't want someone to choose what your hobbies are. You wouldn't want someone to choose what your friends are. So why in the ever living fuck would you want someone to choose what your meaning is? Like why wouldn't you want to have that freedom? And I think religion provides comfort in areas of people's lives where comfort is complete poison. But it is comfort, and that's why people gravitate to it. I mean, it's comfortable delusion. Um,
But I'm like, I also think that like people in general don't know what they want in life. Like, I think when you're given the freedom to choose to be whatever you want in life, that not only creates an anxiety, but it makes you feel uneasy about actually choosing anything for yourself.
it does. You're absolutely right.
And people can have, and I mean, this is, I mean, this can also be like an argument for like authoritarianism, probably, but that's not what the argument I'm making. Like people can be happy, like just having uh, a life that they either choose early or some like the idea of like arranged marriages in India, right? Like people in India who get married through an arranged wedding tend to be stay together longer, and they tend to be happy. That there actually is something to that idea. That if it's like I don't know if I'm trying to, because I'm thinking more about how the ways that an individual person affects like the society, and the way that all these ideas that most of us have on a daily basis actually affect the society we live in. And like I don't have an answer for it.
Yeah.
Like I was have you ever watched that movie Jiro Dreams of Sushi?
No, I never.
It's a documentary. It's one of my favorite fucking documentaries, but it's about this dude in Japan who he's like 80 or 90 or something, but like every fucking day he started a sushi restaurant, and like he's made sushi for like 60 years or 70 years, and like he's just a fucking master at like making fucking sushi, you know? And it was something that like he was brought into, but he just ended up fucking loving it, and like he became a master at it. And like that, like I'm really interested in that idea of doing the same thing over and over until you become very good at it and actually end up being like contributing to society in a net good, And it like the thing I think about is like people who constantly like flip back and forth to trying to find meaning in their lives and never really finding it. Um, do that because they refuse to set their baggage anywhere.
No, I think you actually make a great point. I noticed one thing I see people do is when they choose a track or choose a career, and just for an example, I'm just going to say college where you choose a major. That's the simplest way you come up with it. But then you notice maybe within a few months people change their major. Now, nothing against that. I did that twice when I went to college.
But yeah, I missed the first part. What are you talking about?
Well, yeah. So, well, I was kind of addressing the point you were talking about, like, okay, and so like what a lot of people do, they try something and then they forget it or quit it and move on to something else. I do think there's a lot of like people quit when something gets hard and they mistake that for, well, this is not for me or this is not something
Yeah.
that I like. Because, there was, when I was going to school for counseling, I mean, there were a lot of times where I was thinking, oh man, I'm just not cut out to be a counselor. I mean, I am miserable doing this. But, I made the determination that I chose this, I want to do it, and I'm going to kind of make myself like something. Now, you don't want to force yourself, not saying you should never quit about something, but yeah, sometimes I think you're right. You got to choose something, go with it, go all head in, and even if you think you don't enjoy it or you don't have an act for it, you just kind of burn the boats in your mind and sort of.
Yeah, I'm still pissed off at my parents for not making me do more piano lessons. Not when I wanted to quit when I was like 7 years old.
Yeah,
I'll be fucking master pianist right now. Shit.
you'd be, yeah, that's right, yeah. You just, we'd be doing a podcast, but we just have piano noises in the background.
Exactly. Now I'm doing fucking YouTube videos. Thanks, mom.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you what. Anyway, I gotta get off and go to bed. How many people were chatting, by the way? Were there a lot?
We had a man. We had a Nick went fucking crazy in the chats. and there's one guy, Dan Hartman, but I think he left. Yeah, thanks for staying with us, guys.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad we finally got to do it. After
Yeah, we're gonna do. I mean, I'm glad. I think this is a way more efficient way because we were doing the old school podcast method, and this is just way more interesting because we can have people interact with us while we're talking.
It's easy to set up, and frankly, it sounds fine. Like the quality sounds fine.
Well, your audio quality sounds like shit, so we need to fix that.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Hopefully, I'll get a computer, and then it'll sound better next time. I promise.
Yeah.
Just think of me as like I was a guest on your podcast, and I called in.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what it sounded like.
Yeah. Well, I'll fix that next time.
Yeah.
You just want to do it next Sunday then?
Yeah. I mean, I would like to do it I'm actually off next Sunday, so it would be a lot more easier.
All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, this time works for me too. But if you want to go a tad earlier, we can.
This is Mills, everybody. I forgot to mention this is Mills.
Hi guys, I'm Mills.
He's Mills.
A person, not.
You know about his whole fucking life now, but now you know his name.
I know something.
And it's in the title.
Oh, cool. Oh, you gave away my name too.
Well, I just said Mills.
Oh, that's
you gave my fucking first and last name, bitch.
I did. No, I didn't. That was a pseudonym. That's not a real name.
Don't tag me on Facebook. That will be good.
You don't want me to tag you on Facebook?
Ever? Yeah, I mean, if you share it, just don't tag me on Facebook.
Oh, if I share the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I don't give a shit otherwise. But yeah, we'll do it tomorrow. Maybe we'll have like, I don't know, some more guests or some shit like that. But this is actually fun because I didn't know you were like as deep as you are.
Oh well, thanks. Yeah, well, you obviously know your shit too. I guess I gotta keep staying on my news and stuff a little bit sharper.
I tuned the fuck out of news this week too. I was kind of worried when we started because I just haven't. I usually look every day, but man, I just didn't give a shit this week.
Yeah, well,
I have to take a break every now and then.
Normally, it just makes me mad, so I don't inform myself as much. But I think if we do this once a week or whatever, not only it'll motivate me to do it, but it also won't make me as angry because it's like I'm, putting a creation, working on putting something creative.
Yeah.
At the end of the week. So, but anyway, we'll be in touch, man.
Yeah. Someone just said you were balls deep.
Balls deep. Well,
when I said you were deep.
Oh, I was gonna say I do love a good pair of balls in my mouth. But
yeah, there were no gay jokes this podcast, so we need to fix that.
Oh shoot! Yeah,
that's usually where it goes.
They're going to write a letter and demand I resign.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway. All right. Cool, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right. I'll see you later.
Bye.